All right, thank you for listening in. These interviews are designed to get potential buyers more information about both the seller and the sites they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making your buying decision. Today we have Doug, who's here to talk about his $500 a month Amazon site he has for sale in the firearms niche. Doug, what's going on, buddy?
Not too much, Justin. It's a real pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate your time.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I appreciate yours as well, and I appreciate you coming on the show. Let's do a quick introduction. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and selling websites?
Sure. Well, I started building websites about a year ago, and like most people, I had a little bit of a rocky start, but eventually I sort of found my footing, and I've had a few successful sites under my belt, and I really haven't sold any sites yet. I actually haven't purchased any that are already built either. However, with the great opportunity that Empire Flippers offers, I decided to take a look at selling sites. So this is my first try.
So you are a build from scratch guy. That's exactly how we started off as well. Building these small sites from scratch, kind of building them up and getting a little bit of cash in. We started off with AdSense. That was our monetization strategy. What have you tried, and which do you like the best?
I also started with AdSense, inspired from you, actually, you and Joe. So I had a very small amount of success with AdSense, enough to, pay for a hosting package and pay for the site, which is, a success overall. But
yay, I didn't lose money.
Yeah, I didn't lose money the first time around. Like I said, it was good enough to make 50, 75 cents per day. As you could imagine, the keyword research was just terrible. So it wasn't a buyer's keyword. It was not very targeted, and the search volume was quite low. So that was sort of where I started, and eventually I moved over to Amazon Associates, which is their affiliate program, and that was sort of inspired by Spencer Hawes at Niche Pursuits.
Yeah, Spencer's done some amazing case studies on building up Amazon sites from scratch and kind of showing very publicly how to monetize these sites, how to build them out. He's done a really great job with that. Let's talk a little bit about this site specifically. Why did you choose this niche? Why did you choose the firearms storage niche? What was it about that made you go after it?
I guess sort of to reflect back on the last question, I got better at keyword research. So I realized that I should be very highly targeted towards a buyer's keyword, someone who's ready to spend some money, and I just happened to catch them on the way to Amazon, is the way I like to think about it. As far as actually finding that keyword and sort of the brainstorming, pretty straightforward. I just sort of walked around different retail stores, physical brick and mortar stores, and looked around, sort of kept notes on some of the items that were out there. And then I also took a look at those online stores for those actual, retailers. So, think about in the U.S., we have like Walmart and Target, big outdoor stores, and I'm sure, of course, you have a wide audience, so it may be different in your country, but, those big, huge stores, there are items everywhere. So I just kind of brainstormed in that way and then took a look at the keyword research and realized that there were quite a few people looking at this highly targeted keyword phrase.
One of the things I like about the niche is that, you're not forced to go with Amazon. There are other options in terms of affiliates, in terms of potential drop shippers, or even potentially manufacturing your own. Why did you stick with Amazon instead of looking at some of the other affiliate offers out there from the manufacturers?
Good question. I didn't really look very far to see those other offers that were out there, so it's actually a nice opportunity for the buyer to expand. But the main reason why is I'm familiar with Amazon, and I really, really try to focus on the things that I know and that I know that I can make successful. There are a lot of opportunities out there, and if I go after too many, I will fail at all of them. So I like to just focus on one thing, learn it really well, and do a good job at that one thing.
So from your perspective, you're saying, look, I know Amazon, I know how Amazon works, I'm going to go ahead and roll that out. Whatever happens, so if it gets crazy, you were thinking probably, when you started out, if it gets crazy later on, get all this traffic, I can explore other monetization options. Is that about right?
Exactly. And I didn't even take it far enough in my head that becomes wildly successful that I would expand. I think I just thought if I could make a little cash from this site, I'll be pretty darn happy. So
it's interesting too because, Amazon, they just crush it with conversions, right? So if you're sending them to Amazon, they're going to buy something because they test everything. Whereas if you send it to some affiliate or you're drop shipping, who knows how well that's going to convert. You're definitely not putting the love and care into conversion rate optimization that Amazon is. So, there's a benefit there. But do you know what percentage of the buyers are actually buying the products that you're listing, or are they buying flat screen TVs and other things?
Right. Good question. This niche is extremely targeted. They're literally buying the item that they're searching for and a accessory to go along with it. So I have a few other sites that it targets a different demographic, which basically they buy all sorts of stuff, books and stuff for their kitchen, outdoor equipment, all sorts of things. But this one, they are buying that item and something that goes with it. It's kind of cool to see that it's that targeted.
And, they're very into that niche, too. So people that are into it are way into it. And it's, kind of a luxury item for that niche. It's required, but a luxury item a bit. Let's talk a little bit about your reason for sale. Why did you choose to sell this site instead of keeping it?
I guess a couple reasons. One, I wanted to be able to talk to you, Justin. And this is a really nice way to speak to you.
Sneaky, Doug, sneaky.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
so I got my foot in the door, and I'm pushing it open. Well, I haven't sold any sites, as I mentioned, so this is a really nice way to, experiment with it. For me, I think this is generally a pretty consistent earner. I think it's a nice one for a person to buy, and I think it's a good one for me to sell at this point. I think there's a nice upside at this point in time. So the other reason is obviously be able to, get some of the upcoming profits a little early and potentially, reinvest or, build a little bit of some reserves in my side business.
What's your plan for the cash? A lot of people are worried generally when they buy a site, they want to make sure that the seller isn't going to automatically start competing with them in the same niche. Is that your intention? Will you agree to not do that?
Yes, I could agree not to compete in the same exact niche. It's a generally wide area, so perhaps we could specify something more specific. But, overall, the plan for the cash, like I mentioned, just sort of, build up the reserves, waiting for, a nice opportunity and, fill the war chest a little bit. In addition, I'm building out some other sites, so this will give me some revenue to automate some of or not automate, but outsource some of the processes, content writing, and, some other things like that.
Okay, so reinvesting into your business and looking at, additional sites, niches, and markets that you want to get into. Let's talk a little bit about the history of this site. You built it originally in August 2013, I think. Is that right?
Correct.
How did it work out the first couple of weeks or months? What were the earnings like? What was the traffic like? Was it an early win, or was it not doing well at first?
It was a slow start. So as you mentioned, I actually bought the domain back in August, and it looked like a really nice niche, something that I really wanted to go after, but I was actually working on something else pretty heavily at the time. So I realized that I had too many irons in the fire, backed off a little bit on this site, and I really just put a very minimal amount of content up for probably 2 or 3 months, and it just, was indexed. I didn't really pay much attention to it. Traffic was very low. I really didn't know if it was going to be a winner. So really up until, maybe late November, there really wasn't much traction there. So, I think that answers the first part of your question. And the second part is it actually started to take off a little bit once I gave the love and care that the site needed with more content, more backlinks, and that sort of thing. What you would expect when you're kicking off a brand new site. So once I started to take care of the site, the earnings and traffic did pick up.
How many pages of content do you have on the site today, and how much are you adding on a regular basis?
I don't know the exact number of pages. I think there's roughly 20 to 30 pages. Sorry, I didn't check that beforehand. I have not been adding very much. I think I sort of work in sprints, so I think maybe about 6 weeks to 2 months ago, I added about 8 new product reviews. And after that, I had another sprint of work where I added links to those new pages, and things have been pretty consistent. Enough pages and enough information there, I think, it's sustainable. And I've just been adding links slowly over the last 6 to 8 weeks.
Can you give me an example of something that didn't work when you were building out the site, and then an example of one thing that did, that you think it led to its success?
Sure. Initially, I envisioned this as an AdSense site, and the CPC, the cost per click, looked pretty good, and the search volume looked pretty good, and it didn't really convert that well. The traffic just really wasn't clicking on those links on the ads. So after I realized I was an idiot for trying AdSense when there were clearly products that Amazon sold that converted really well, that were completely targeted, I switched it up and took all the AdSense panels down, took all the ads down, and just had nice information about the product and a very easy way to get over to Amazon. So Amazon worked really well. There are several different ways to encourage people to click over there, and one thing that very specifically worked is a small table up at the top with a couple different of the very highly rated products in the niche, so that if a person landed on the page, pretty much above the fold, they could see the top items that they may be looking for. So it's pretty darn easy for them just to get to the page, read a couple lines, and then click over to Amazon.
So they were probably looking to buy anyway. They come across your site and they go, okay, yep, that's the one I want to get. Great. And then they're on Amazon. They can purchase from there. Let's talk a little bit about backlinks. That tends to be a question we get a lot from buyers. How did you build out the backlinks to the site?
Sure. So I have a bit of a process that I go through. It's changing every day to go along with, what I may think Google likes or what other people may think that Google likes. But essentially, this one started off with a base set of links using, some pretty standard social profiles, Google+, Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing. I also created a handful of Web 2.0 blogs, which those are things like a WordPress blog, hosted by WordPress, of course, maybe a Tumblr blog, and, your other favorite blogging platform, Blogspot, let's say. So I have a few.
You're willing to include those in the sale, all except for the Google Plus profile, I think. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's exactly right. So the Web 2.0s that I created and the social profiles and that sort of thing, yep, they all come along with it. And the Google Plus, the author profile, is associated with other sites, so I do have to keep that one to myself.
Okay. And then you also built some links to it from a private blog network. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yes. I think probably most of your listeners are aware of private blog networks, but typically those are made up of expired domains that the owner either purchased at an auction or perhaps they found it themselves. But these expired domains in the private blog network have, quite a bit of authority, and it's fantastic for building your backlinks. So, I can't disclose too much about that other than these are quite high authority sites. There are somewhere between, I'll give a range just so it's not too vague, but between, say, 10 and 50 links from PBN sources. So those, again, will actually stay in place. I'm not going to move those. Those are very important for the site. The buyer can rest assured that those are going to stay in place.
Doug, throughout the site's history, what do you think about the site, or that what you've done to the site has worked the best? What do you think has been the most effective?
I guess giving it away before, but having a way to get over to Amazon pretty quickly when someone lands on the page, I think that converts very, very well. And because the keyword phrase is so targeted towards a buyer, that's actually solving their problem. So I think that works the best.
All right, Doug, so let's move into traffic and earnings a bit. Can you give me kind of a general or overall breakdown on the organic, referral, direct, paid, social traffic that you're getting? You don't have any paid traffic, is that right?
That's right, no paid traffic. I don't know the exact numbers. You and Joe probably have a better idea about some of the breakdown of the traffic, but I think it's probably 90% organic, and there may be a little bit of traffic coming through a very small number of referral sources.
Okay. Now, you said that when you were starting off, you were only earning just a little bit of cash. It started to turn around for you, said, in December. How much did the site start earning in December, January, February?
Sure. And I'll, as context, I'll provide some of the traffic numbers during that period too. So in November, actually, the traffic started to pick up, and there were about 100 visitors in November. Of course, unfortunately, it wasn't converting well. I think I may have still had AdSense up at that point, so the revenue was about zero. In December, it picked up with 350 visitors that converted into about $130. In January, traffic picked up more, almost 1,150 visitors, which was worth about $200. And then in February and March, on average, there were about 3,800 visitors, and that pulled in about $640 for each of those months. You can see it's fairly consistent, and it's been doing pretty well.
Yeah, we're actually selling it based on the last 3 months, which came out to $521 a month on average. But your last 30 days came in at $653, so it's definitely on an upward trajectory. The site was built in August. Looks like things are definitely moving up. How stable are the organic rankings? I know that you rank really well for one keyword with like lower search volume, and you're about middle of the first page for one with significantly more search volume.
Right. Stability is very good. So that smaller search volume term that you mentioned, it's been ranking number one since mid-January, and it's been, rock solid for that number one spot. That other term it's been bouncing around. It's been as high as, I think, maybe fifth or sixth, and it sort of stays at the bottom of that first page typically, but it's been very consistent over the last probably 90 days.
Let's move into opportunities a little bit. If you were keeping this site, if we said, oh man, no buyers, couldn't sell it, what would you do, or what are the top two things you would focus on to grow out the site?
Gotcha. For growing out the site, I think adding a lot more reviews is huge. I think, those are going to fall into the long tail search kind of category. And I think if you just, built a page specifically around a lot of different terms, because of the authority that the site has right now, it'll be pretty easy to rank for some of the long tail terms. And I guess, maybe this isn't, a change that I would do, but if you do take a look at Google Trends, right now, this term is sort of in a down period, and it picks up towards the retail season, like a lot of different items. So I'm actually selling at a really poor time for me, the seller, and a really good time for the buyer. So I would expect in the next, several months, if the new owner continues to build out the site, to have a really huge retail season.
It's interesting that you talk about content. You order content from TextBroker right now, isn't that right?
Typically, occasionally, if I have a good writer on Odesk is my other spot that I pick up content, but occasionally I'll get some there.
Okay. So, if someone were able to take the $500 a month, an interesting approach might be to add a bunch of content in the short term, kind of, get a lot more reviews out there to take advantage of that organic traffic in a few months. I think that's a more stable approach. Might be to build out content, reinvest some of the profits early so that you can reap the benefits later or longer term. One of the things I really like about this, though, is that I do think it has quite a bit of potential for drop shipping. So find some retailers, some people out there that allow for drop shipping this product. I think, the margins are slim on drop shipping, but generally you're going to get, more bang for your buck drop shipping than you will for Amazon. Let's talk really quick about Amazon. What percentage are you at with Amazon right now? How many products are you selling, and what percentage are you at each month with these?
I think I'm around 6.5 right now. I'm splitting my time between a lot of projects right now. Justin's not selling as many items as I was earlier this year, unfortunately. But to that point, if someone actually had a nice stable of Amazon sales, I mean, the earnings would just automatically be potentially a couple percent higher.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic actually for someone who's selling a lot of Amazon products, a bigger opportunity than you have today because they're getting a better margin from Amazon straight up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, so let's move into risk a bit. The site doesn't come without risks. The fact that it's pretty new or it's less than a year old, I think is a bit of a risk for potential buyers. What other risks do you think are out there that buyers should be aware of?
I think just the elephant in the room, and that's Google algorithm changes, which are unpredictable. So.
Yeah, Google. You think you know what Google wants until you don't, and that's both a downside and an upside. I was talking to Drew Sanaki. I don't know if you've seen his site or not. DrewSanaki.com, super sharp guy. We were talking about the opportunity with organic because of the fear that's out there right now, and that there may be more opportunity if people are down on organic traffic right now, and you can pick up organic sites and get a good deal and get sites that are valuable. You may be able to turn those around. Right now, e-commerce sites are a bit expensive. That it might actually be an opportunity for e-commerce sellers to sell, cash out at maximum multiples, and then the organic guys, people buying organic sites, may have some opportunity to turn those into e-commerce and that type of thing, which I think is pretty interesting. So yeah, I mean, Google algorithm updates. I think the length of time, generally, if it were earning for another 6 months to a year, that would show buyers potentially that it's more stable. But I do like the trajectory on earnings, and I do like the rankings. I think that you do have opportunity with that secondary keyword that actually has more traffic than the one that you're ranking for. Now, let's talk about some additional information really quick. Would you be willing to sign off on a non-compete? I'll say really quick that a lot of buyers look for a non-compete. Problem is that with international businesses and people all over the place, they're really hard to keep unless you can enforce, right? And so unless you're buying a six-figure plus site, how are you going to enforce a non-compete? It makes it a bit more difficult. But just for the buyer's security, would you be willing to sign a non-compete on this website?
Sure. And as I mentioned before, it's kind of a wide niche in some ways. So I could certainly commit to not compete for the direct keywords that this site's targeting, which I think is probably reasonable.
Great. Okay. And then we didn't talk about this. I don't think it's on the listing, but how much support are you willing to offer the buyers in a post-sale situation? A lot of buyers ask, they want to make sure that the seller's not going to say, okay, good luck. Good luck to you. Will you be willing to get on the phone? Would you be able to handle some emails to get started?
Certainly, and I don't know typically what Empire Flippers suggest, but I think email support, perhaps one Skype call as sort of an introduction would be reasonable to me.
Great.
And, I want to sell more sites in the future, so I want to make sure customers are happy and you're happy, Justin. So, making sure that every stakeholder involved here is satisfied is very important to me.
Awesome, Doug. Okay, so let's say, you'll give them a kind of a strategy call to get started and offer email support for 30 days. Does that work?
Sounds good.
All right, man. So let's do a quick wrap up here on the site. First off, the site on the market is item number 10041, or that's 10,041. You can check it out. It's in the hobbies and leisure category. Firearm storage site is making $521 a month. It's an Amazon site, and it's made $653 in the last 30 days. The majority of the traffic is organic, and it was created in August 2013. Doug, if you could give me your best elevator pitch, your best 30-second pitch for selling this site to a potential buyer, what would you want them to know, and what would you say?
Well, I think this is an awesome opportunity for a buyer because, number one, consistent traffic and consistent earnings. I'm actually selling it sort of at a point where I probably should be holding on to it for another 30 to 90 days just to get the earnings up because they've been so consistent and over the last 75 days. In addition, I'm actually going to drip over the next 5 weeks or so 5 more high authority PBN links to help the, I guess, overall rankings and provide some longevity for those rankings. Lastly, the Google Trends, if you do check it out for this niche, it's at the lowest point, as I mentioned, during the year. So the upside for this is very, very high for the buyer, and I mean, I think it's a fantastic opportunity.
Awesome, Doug. And if anyone wants to check out the site, they can go over to empireflippers.com/marketplace. You can check out the site again. It's item number 10041. Doug, thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate you being on and helping the buyers out with their due diligence and information regarding your site for sale.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it.